Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm going to be acting as your Microsoft Azure SQL Database expert guide for this session. We are doing a super clear, comprehensive pre-flight briefing today because right after this overview, you're going to be jumping into the actual hands-on labs. We absolutely need to make sure you have the foundational blueprint completely locked in your head before you start clicking around in the Azure portal. To set the stage for your upcoming lab, I want you to step into a specific role. Picture this. You've just been hired as the brand new senior data engineer for a company called AdventureWorks. They're heavily relying on you to modernize their infrastructure. You aren't just pushing buttons to see what happens here. You are on a very specific mission to bring order, efficiency, and scale to their cloud data platform. So here's our game plan for getting you prepped. First, your data engineer mission. Second, decoding the ARM template. Third, the one-click Azure deployment. And finally, essential resource cleanup. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, your data engineer mission. Your primary objective here is database automation. AdventureWorks utilizes SQL Server in both Infrastructure as a Service, or IaaS, and Platform as a Service, PaaS offerings. Right now, their day-to-day administration is honestly way too manual. Your goal is to streamline all those operations to ensure that databases are hitting peak performance, plus provide robust methods for alerting based on specific criteria. Seriously, manual, click-heavy deployments are a total thing of the past. Mastering this automation is exactly what's going to make you invaluable to their team. Which brings us right to Section 2, decoding the ARM template. In your lab, you'll be navigating over to a GitHub repository to track down a file named azuredeploy.json. Now, this isn't just a simple text file. It is your precise architectural blueprint. It's written in JSON, and it tells Azure exactly what resources to build, what to name them, and exactly how to configure them. By using this template, you're completely removing the risk of human error from the deployment process. It's a lifesaver. Let's actually demystify what's under the hood of that blueprint. When you open up the ARM template, you'll spot a section called Parameters. This is where we define the logical properties of our server and database. You have serverName, which dynamically generates a unique string so you don't run into any annoying naming conflicts. You've got sqlDBName, which defaults to sampleDB, and the location pulling from your resource group, and crucially, the administratorLogin and administratorLoginPassword. Notice in your lab that the password parameter uses a type called secure string that is absolutely essential to ensure your sensitive credentials aren't accidentally exposed in the deployment logs. Moving a bit further down the JSON file, you'll hit the resources array. And this brilliantly illustrates how Azure handles dependencies. The template logically nests the database creation right inside the server creation block. There's even an explicit depends on line referencing the server. What this does is guarantee that Azure will build the logical server first, wait for it to be fully operational, and only then attempt to deploy the database into it. It totally handles the order of operations for you automatically. Okay, we've read the blueprint, so let's shift over to Section 3, one-click Azure deployment. In your lab, after you review the JSON file, you'll head back to the main GitHub page and scroll down to find the magic Deploy to Azure button. It's a real game changer. A single click on this grabs the template from the GitHub repository, bundles the whole shebang up, and hands it directly to the Azure portal, kicking off the entire Azure Resource Manager process. It bridges the gap between source control and cloud deployment in an instant. Once you click that button, you'll land on a screen in the Azure portal titled Create a SQL Server and Database. Now, the beauty of the ARM template is that it'll already have a bunch of the details filled in for you. However, you will need to provide a few specific manual inputs to customize it for your session. You'll make sure your resource group starts with Contoso RG. For the SQL Administrator login, you'll type labadmin, and then you'll just enter a really strong password of your choosing. After filling in those fields, you'll hit Review plus Create, validate your inputs, and then click Create. Once you do that, honestly, you just sit back. Over the next 5 minutes or so, Azure takes the wheel. It reads the JSON, provisions the compute, sets up the networking, and configures your logical SQL Server and database. When it's all finished, you'll get the Your Deployment is Complete screen. You'll be able to click Go to Resource Group and see your brand new, randomly named SQL Server resource sitting right there, ready for action. But we aren't quite finished yet. Section 4, Essential Resource Cleanup. So the crucial point here is that deploying resources is only half the job. Since this is a lab environment, leaving these resources running when you're done will just unnecessarily burn through your Azure credits. You've basically got two distinct paths for cleanup depending on how you started. If you created a brand new dedicated resource group for this lab, the easiest path is just to delete the entire resource group. It wipes everything out at once. But if you deployed into a shared resource group that contains things from other labs you actually want to keep, you need to perform a targeted deletion, removing only the specific resources for this lab. Let's walk through that targeted deletion procedure really quickly so you don't accidentally nuke your other work. You'll start by searching for resource groups in the Azure Portal. Go into the specific group you used. From there, carefully select only the resources prefixed with the SQL Server name generated during your lab. Hit Delete from the top menu. Azure will actually ask you to explicitly type the word delete to confirm, kind of a nice safety feature, and then you click delete again. Wait a few moments and your environment is perfectly clean. Let's recap the workflow you're about to execute. You're going to access an ARM template directly from GitHub. You'll review how it defines logical server parameters and nests those database dependencies. You're going to use a one-click deployment button to push that template into the Azure portal, provide a few custom parameters, and literally watch as an automated, randomly named SQL Server resource is spun up in just 5 minutes flat. And then you'll safely tear it all down. You now have the complete pre-flight overview. You understand exactly what the code is doing, you know what the portal expects from you, and you definitely know how to clean up your workspace when you're done. You have seen the blueprint. The only thing left to do is to actually get hands-on. So, are you ready to build it? Go ahead and jump right into the lab, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for joining this session. Those who are new, please subscribe to my channel. I have prepared many labs in related to Azure training. So this lab is focusing DP-300 Database Administrator. And this time we will go through lab number 11, deploy Azure SQL Database using ARM template. So nowadays it's coming like more automations. Think that you are joining in a new place and day-to-day operations when you create a database, even in cloud environment, you need to go through so many steps manually, one by one, pass all those values. So this lab is mainly focusing how you can use ARM template. Mm, I'll share this GitHub link so that you can follow into your lab environment. So let me move this side and open a browser tab and copy the URL. And this is a sample template, ARM template, but in your own environment, you can set that up based on your setup. Like there can be, different things you needed in beforehand. For example, like a VNet or storage type or version. So you can select and then you can customize that one. So, but here is the option that we are going to show you how you can actually implement that one. So if we go to, let me open another page, duplicate this one. And here you can see that JSON file. You can open that and you can view the file here. So you can see the parameter name. You can see that the database name, it will be like default values sample DB. Then you can see that you are selecting your location like a region. Then admin username, admin password. You can keep this password into vault, and then you can call that to use that password from vault. So this is very basic one, but based on your environment, you can customize more on your requirements. Now, if I go back and you can see the README file, and there is option like deploy to Azure. So if you just select that deploy to Azure options, you need to log in. This login is mainly for your Azure Portal because ultimately it's logging there and it will provision over there. So you can see that this one is here, and you can just, if you want, you can edit the template or parameters file, which two files are related to this template. So here, when you see the console, like then you pass the resource group, then you select the region, select the server name you want, then here you can give a different database name, then location, then administrator login, then give a password here. And when that is done, you can select review plus create option. And when validation is good, then you can just select create to create that SQL Server database. So it may take few minutes. Let me back when this is ready. And when you see the deployment is complete, if you go to resource group, from there you can see that it has been created like some one SQL server, and then on top of that it's created a sample DB. So that is it for this lab. If you have any questions, please add that into comment section. Otherwise, see you into next lab.